has been updated.
All right.
Please check it on the map.
A little windy here, so we're going to scoot right over here and take a little quick look around. See, the combine is in the field. Nothing combined yet. We're going to go over here to the north end of the field quickly. Get me out of the wind and kind of cruise down past our plot here. You can see what we've got. We had our field day on the 15th of September, and it was good. It was very good. Really good conversations that should be recorded and documented elsewhere. Try to get where I can see here. So what you're seeing here is our equip-supported replicated trials. The first few rows there are in the shade of the tree, really light soil, so we got some baseline rows. And then what we have is one of my signature protocol practices that I have is that I always have a few rows of 30-inch traditional corn. There's nothing traditional about what we did here this year. This was a cold turkey test of going to regenerative ag. So we had some things you'll see there. We've got a nice green layer. That's where we had our wonderful cover crop that should be shown in earlier images. And right after our field day on the 15th of September, about the 20th of September, we came in, drilled in another set of cover crops, hairy vetch, winter pea, and cereal rye. And you can actually kind of see where it took off there. And what's interesting about this, you can see the rows from the drill there, is that where we had 55 inches between the plants, plant to plant, we could get in there with my little drill. Here was a 45 inches between the plants. I couldn't get in there, so we just left the cover crop stand. So that's what it was before it was drilled. The irony here is that we now have a nice new growth coming along. We've sort of terminated, not by rolling, but by just running over the crop that was there with my little tractor junior and the drill. The high spot you see there is where we have a post and did some soil sampling. That will be a spot we will return to year after year, looking at the soil conditions and trying to ascertain if we can get some soil tests that will tell us if we're making a difference. And so then, again, as always, there's a 30-inch comparator. And so we've got a post there in that field that shows you that. So now we're moving through. This again is a replication. So you see some 30-inch rows, some 60-inch rows, and these are 90-inch twin rows with a mix from Green Cover, Keith Burns, called Max Soil Builder. We can give you specifications on that, and Keith would be very happy to help, I'm sure. And again, our 30-inch, there's 4 rows there that have no cover crop. That's our baseline. And then there's 4 rows that we put in a cover crop at the same time this spring, a little more traditional cover crop. And it really hasn't done much, except now it's starting to show up a little bit. So there's a little something there. We'll see what happens after we harvest. The plan is, after harvest, wherever we haven't been able to drill what I call the early fall cover crop, we're going to come in with a late fall mix that's just cereal rye. So I guess that's not a mix, is it? But try to adopt the practice of everybody should have cover crops on every square inch of the ground every year. Possible exception is the baseline 30-inch. I guess I have to think about that a bit. But generally where we couldn't get in, like in that space right there between the rows, once I've harvested that in the next several days, we should come in there and be putting in a line of cover crop. And then we've got some specialty stuff going on over here. I'm going to scooch down to the center of the field real quickly. One little thing you'll see here, this is the pathway we had this summer, or this fall, on the 15th of September when we walked through here. And if you look at the corn over here, it's pretty dramatically different on the first few feet of the plot versus the later. And we're going to try to document the amount of tail off in that. And these pictures really, I don't think are showing it very well. So you got to go back and look at the earlier stuff if you want to see that. But look at that. Isn't that a thing of beauty right there? Look at all that green. There is a lot. I could say there's a ton of biomass there. I think it's 1.5 tons actually, but I'm not sure. I did measure it. I do have some data. And again, then we have an open area in the center. Original thought was this might be hay ground. We're now thinking it may be grazed with sheep, or we may put some vegetables in there. It turns out this is some of the best soil in the whole plot. The little post you see over there is some of the worst soil in the little plot. More about that later. It shows up on some of the other images. This is our sheep jeep, which is currently housing chickens because the sheep haven't arrived yet. But that will be a major factor here as we figure out how to somehow get some livestock integrated into the operation here. And then there's also what I'm calling the chicken stadium up here, because I understand that inside of this little chicken house that once was a little small manure spreader, a little John Deere manure spreader, isn't that significant, turned into a chicken house, and inside the chicken house is the markings that roughly replicate the Iowa State University Stadium markings. So the chickens get to be cyclones every night, I guess. So there's a few chickens in there. I think they're on duty. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not real current what's going on here. Then we had some veggies. We had some purple hull peas. I think in an earlier flight I called them black hull peas. That's wrong. Purple hull peas. And some beans. We also had a strip of milpa, which is supposed to be, and really interesting, a really diverse mixture of veggies. We also put in some prairie grass strip or two, and we put in some wildflower seeds. Generally a dismal failure. We're going to work on that a little bit more next year. So that's the very short tour. I've burned 9 minutes of your time now. We're going to cruise on back to the north end of the field. I'm heading north now. Notable, these are 90-inch twin row. These are twin row, 90-inch center to center, 80 inches plant to plant. So we've got a lot of sunlight going in for the cover crop. And the goal here is let's get some organic material in this soil that's otherwise really light and really low in organic material and a lot of other nice little biology things. So